Quickly replace your front rotors for a 2002 Ford F-250 Super Duty. Start by removing the brake caliper. You can easily do this. Just take your time. Do not rush. Use a 21mm socket to remove the brake caliper bracket. Use a breaker bar. Link will be in the description to buy one. Remove the brake caliper bracket and brake pads. Remove the wheel bearing dust cap like this. This is how the old wheel bearing grease looks. Remove the safety pin, or as they say, assorted cotter pin. Remove the spindle nut retainer. This is exactly how I took off the spindle lock nut. It is loose and I took it off with my hand. I checked how deep it was threaded in. It looks like it's supposed to be a little bit loose and not too tight. I removed the spindle lock nut. Hit a like if you like this video so far. Remove the spindle nut washer. Place the spindle lock nut kit in a clean place to clean it. Remove the wheel bearing slowly and carefully. Do not rush. Take your time. This is how the spindle looks when I took off the wheel bearing. I decided to use the same wheel bearing. I also decided to clean the outer surface of the wheel bearings. This is how much grease the spindle had when I took it off. This is how the other side of the rotor looked when I took it off. This driver's side rotor has two wheel bearings. This is the second wheel bearing that is on the other side of the rotor. And hub assembly. This whole part is called the front rotor and hub assembly. I decided to use the same wheel bearing seal. This is how I took it off. You can buy a new one or use the same one. This is the wheel bearing seal. This is the new front driver's side rotor. This is the old front driver's side rotor. This is the comparison. I cleaned up the spindle that had the old grease in it. I also decided to clean up the ABS wheel speed sensor magnet. You can buy new wheel bearings or use the same wheel bearings if they look good. I decided to only clean the outer surface of the wheel bearings. Make sure to grease up the wheel bearings. Try to push in grease into the wheel bearings. Try to have it as well greased as possible. This is an example of how I put in the wheel bearing after putting the wheel bearing inside. I put in the same old wheel bearing seal. But before putting the wheel bearing seal, this is how I greased up the wheel bearing. I greased it up really good. I greased the wheel bearing before installing it. Then I installed the wheel bearing seal. It took some time to put in the wheel bearing seal. I used a hammer like this to install it. Careful not to damage it. You have to be patient. Eventually it will set in. This is how the wheel bearing seal should look after it sets in. I also greased the inside of the hub assembly, where the wheel bearings are placed in. This is how the inside of the hub assembly looks once I greased it. This is how the spindle looks when I greased it. I put enough grease on the spindle and hub assembly. This is the grease I used. This is how I installed the new front rotor and hub assembly. After putting it in its place, you need to add the other wheel bearing. Make sure you clean the wheel bearing. I only cleaned the outer surface and put new grease. I installed the wheel bearing with new grease. Then I put in the spindle nut washer like this. Then I put the spindle nut after. I was able to adjust the spindle nut with what I can see and feel. I noticed before I took it off how far threaded in it was. This is how I adjusted the spindle nut. I used an adjustable wrench to tighten the spindle nut. I got it tight by hand, but not super tight. I rotated the rotor with the nut tight. I noticed that the nut gets tight fairly easily. I also noticed the nut will not go in its thread so deep. I loosened the spindle nut. I tightened the spindle nut with my fingers, the most that I could, and then I got it loose just a little bit. I noticed that when I took it off, this spindle nut was loose. This spindle nut has to be a little bit loose. If the rotor does not spin freely, the spindle nut is too tight. If the spindle nut is too loose, it will damage the wheel bearings. The rotor must be able to do one complete turn. I loosened the spindle nut just a little bit. Now it did one complete turn. Like, comment, and do not forget to subscribe. I appreciate you, and until next time.